it's Crystal Marshall from martialartstudiophotography.com, and here's Thor. He's my bud, and I have another cat named Jane, and we named her because his name was Thor. But he's going to help me explain today some really cool tricks that we can do. For the past 4 weeks, if you haven't been tuning in, we have had some amazing really cool things to learn. The first week we did what camera to buy, what lenses to buy, let's see, what do all the numbers mean, very basic. The second day we did how to control your camera, how to start using manual if you wanted to be a little bit more advanced. Yesterday, even though my voice was dying, we did what makes a good photo, and it was some of my favorite content, some of my favorite tricks of the tray that I use when I'm taking a good photo. Here you go, bud. So, so today is going to be really cool. It's going to be for those that do have a DSLR, or you know, like a Nikon or a Canon, or even a mirrorless. Any camera that you can control and that you can manipulate. We're going to talk about that today. If you missed the last 3 sessions, they're going to be on the Facebook page, which is here, Martial Art Studio. You can follow me at Chica Marsh. Here's my website right here if you want to see some blog posts, some really cool things that I'm doing, my portfolio in general. So there you go. So we're going to hop right into it. Let me get the slide going. And for those that don't know, I would love to do more webinars. Where did that slide go? I would love to do more webinars in the future. And I would love to know what you all want to talk about. What do you all want to study? What do you want to learn? So that would be the challenge for you all to think through. Before I started this webinar, I actually went out on Facebook and I said, what do you all want to learn? Hence the topics that we had. I had somebody ask, what camera should I buy? I had someone ask, you know, what do all the numbers mean? I'm trying to get into photography for street photography. You know, what kind of camera would that, you know, what kind of camera should I buy? I had someone ask me for tonight's topic, which was, I'm a more advanced photographer. I would love to know some cool camera tricks. So that's why we're going to talk about today. Every single webinar I have talked about what is photography, and I cannot emphasize it enough. It's about seeing the light around you and taking that light and creating a story, writing a story with light. So that's the first thing that you're going to see on my website. So that is that. So let's get right into it. So day 1 we talked about DSLRs. It's a digital single lens reflex camera, basically like a Nikon D3200 or D3300, any of those D series, a Canon Rebel or any of those Canon cameras. Sony has some really good ones, Panasonic and Fuji. So any of those kind of cameras, mirrorless cameras, are really in as well. So those are going to be the kind of cameras that we're going to talk about tonight and using them. It's really cool. In today's digital age, you would think, since we have Photoshop and we have all these things, that the art of actually taking a good photo in the camera has been lost. Because technically you could create all of these tricks that I show you in Photoshop, yes, but the amazing thing is that when I'm going to show you, I have a little bag of tricks I'm going to show you how to wow your friends, how to do all sorts of really cool things in the camera without even opening up Photoshop. So these are kind of some of the examples of things that we're going to talk about today. How to create this effect, how to do this, how to do this if you have a little bit more advanced camera. This is a really easy one. I mean, you could get this at Home Depot. We'll talk about that. This is also really easy. So in order to kind of start off, you will need a tripod. You can get one for like $10 on Amazon. I'm going to talk about some of the little bag of tricks that I have. And a lot of those you can get, you know, super cheap. on Amazon or from Home Depot. So let's talk about it. So first thing, I'm going to start off right, hitting the pavement hard, is how to use random things in your photos. First thing is a quart size Ziploc bag. You can do gallon size, whatever. You want to open up this the bottom of the bag, put your camera right in here, and shoot with it. Let me grab another camera. I have one hooked to this tripod, but let me grab another camera to show you how it's going to look. As I'm, oh, that's a lens. So many different bags here. I have one camera recording. Let's see. Aha! Man, this thing is huge. Okay, so here you go. We have, let me pop you back there. So here would be an example of a camera with a plastic bag. No, where's my plastic bag? I'm going crazy. Okay, here you go. Ba-boom. So we're talking about a plastic bag. So you're just going to open up the bag, put it over your lens. Remember, the lens is how you see the world around you. You're going to kind of, lay it a little bit over so a little bit comes over the lens. You can even do some creative things by putting some red Sharpie or blue Sharpie over the edges to kind of get that cool gradient look. But this photo of my daughter here was shot through a plastic bag. It makes this really beautiful, smoky, dreamy effect. So, plastic bag, go figure. Second one, I got this prism on Amazon. I got like a set of 3 for like $10, not even that. This one is a cheap plastic one. You can really step it up and get a glass one. But it does the job. And basically a prism is going to reflect different angles around you and put it on the other side. Or it can block off information that you don't want to show. Like, for example, this couple that I had here, it was kind of a busy street in Norfolk. There's cars, there's like a stoplight, there's a trash can here, but you can't even see it because I put a prism right along my lens, and I was just kind of looking through the prism, rotating it so that I could kind of blur out and reflect some information. There's you can just play around with that. There's so many different ways to use these. There's bigger ones, there's glass ones, there's smaller ones. They actually create a product now called, gosh, I don't even know what it's called. I think it's called like Lensworks or something, and it's an $80 circular prism that just hangs over your lens like this, and it does exactly the same thing when you can just buy this for like $5, $6 depending on the size, whatever. So there you go, there's a little trick right here. Sparklers, that is a really cool idea. So there's 2 ways to use sparklers according to this slide I made. The first way is really easy. You're gonna be shooting, and you can hold up the sparkler right near, like maybe like right here, to get that fire flare on the side. So that's what I did. I literally held my the sparkler right here, and I shot as the sparkler was going on, and that's how I created these really big pops of light. Another way to use a sparkler is obviously if they held the sparklers. Now, the thing about using sparklers like this, let me show you that. Let me put this down. So, if you want to use sparklers that are making a picture, that's called like a long exposure. And you're going to need a tripod, like I said. You're going to need to have your camera on the tripod. And this kind of goes back to the webinar that I taught on, maybe number 2 webinar, about controlling your camera and how the shutter speed, which is how fast your camera takes a picture, is going to receive light. So you want to receive a lot of light. We were in the middle of this dark street in the middle of Norfolk doing this photo, and it was a beautiful apartment building and nice bridge behind us. But they were completely pitch black. I mean, you can talk to my husband. Like, it was literally like you couldn't even see them. So I had to have my shutter speed, or the opening of the inside of my camera to open up for a very long time. But as you can see, when you're holding a camera, you're going to have shake. You know, everybody, you know, even a little bit of a shake. So putting it on a tripod will allow the camera to be opened up for a long period of time without any shake from the camera. And what you're going to do is, you're going to put the camera on manual, or, okay, let's just say for the sake of it, let's put it on manual. You're going to have that shutter speed. You're going to put the dial. I usually use the back dial. Some cameras have it in the front. It just depends on what camera you have. You want that shutter speed down to about, remember, shutter is measured in like a fraction of a second. Okay, so I had, for this particular shot, I had it for maybe a 5-second shutter. So my camera was open, receiving light for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Well, because I'm receiving a lot of light into the camera, I had to have the aperture, but it was pitch dark, so I think the aperture was at like f3 or f4, and my ISO, which is like we talked about in number 2 webinar, the ISO is how well your camera can see in the dark. So I have my ISO at about maybe 600 or 800 for this shot. I really wanted to get a lot of that ambient light coming off of their bodies, that orangish light from the sparklers, and I had them hold it. Then I pushed the button at that shutter speed low, 5 seconds, and I literally had them make a heart. I was like, ready, set, go. Shh. And that's how I did this photo. Again, it's all trial and error. I had to really play around with the settings. I had them do it several times. I probably went through like 6 or 7 sparklers to get this photo. So don't be discouraged if maybe what you're trying to do isn't working out. You know, maybe play around with the settings. If you're not very comfortable with using the M function, this is a really easy way to do it. Do the S function on your Nikon. If you are a Canon person, it says, yeah, TV. It says TV on the dial. You're going to do shutter, and then you're just going to manipulate the shutter, turning it down to 5 seconds. Then your camera is going to compensate for everything else. So that's probably what I would do if you're not comfortable using manual for that. Okay, so with the copper pipe, we're going to hop right over here. This one is super easy to do. You don't even need a tripod. I mean, you can just hand hold this baby. This is a pipe that I got off of Amazon. You can get this from Home Depot, but I'm lazy and I have 3 kids, so I'm not going to go to Home Depot with 3 kids. But this is just a piece of copper pipe. Use it for, you know, all sorts of plumbing in your house. And my husband's laughing at me. But if you look through it, you can begin to see, let's see if I can help. You see those rings coming off of the piping here? Oh wow, look at that. That's amazing. So as I got this idea from a fellow photographer, and when she took the most amazing bridal exit photo. So they were holding sparklers up, the bride and groom were kissing, and she shot through one of these bad boys, and it was absolutely just gorgeous. And I can put the photo on the bottom of the feed after this broadcast, but it was just absolutely gorgeous. And I said, oh my gosh, how did you do that photo? And she said, I shot through one of these things. And I said, oh my gosh, I have to buy one right now. So this photo of my husband, I took, literally, I just stood outside. It was pitch dark. He was looking at his phone. We're just like taking out the trash or something. And I see the street light behind his head from our cul-de-sac. And I just held up the thing like this, took the photo. Love that. I just love it. So, copper pipe. I think I got it for like $3. So, there you go. The last one is my favorite thing to use. It is a mirror. You can use any mirror. You can go to the Dollar Tree and get a mirror, whatever. I mean, this is just some mirror that I found, because I'm a homeschooler. So this was just some mirror that they had in some math kit that I it's supposed to like learn symmetry or something. But you can get basically just like a little compact mirror. I don't actually think this is actually like a mirror. I think it's just a piece of plastic that they spray painted with some silver paint, whatever. So it works. What's really cool about the mirror is, again, like the prism, it will block out what you don't want to see in the photo. So as you can see, it will start to reflect different things that you want to block out in the photo. There you go. So that's just like a really cool thing. You can play around with it. Ah, there's the opposite side of my house. There's my husband on the computer. So anyway, so play around with the mirror. It's really cool. Let me show you the prism. See how it's beginning to reflect different parts of my house? It's like a really cool trippy effect. So that's kind of a cool, that's a prism. Because I'm bored, I made some other things. This is a like a beer bottle top or a soda top, and my husband cut it with some, like, you know, glass cutter, but there's ways you can do it without a glass cutter. So let me show you this now. As a random trick of the trade, I am not holding things up to my actual lens that comes with the camera. Let's talk about that really quick. So every lens that I have, it doesn't matter if it's a $100 lens or a $1,000 lens that I use for weddings. I got a little $5 to $10 shield. It's a UV protective filter. I am not actually touching any of these things to my actual lens, because if it scratches, not good. And insurance probably won't cover that. So get a little $5 to $10 UV protective filter. It is way better to drop a $5 to $10 filter than the actual lens that you bought and spent so much money on. So that's just a safety precaution. So let me hold up. See, this is a little bottle top. It really focuses, kind of like the copper thing that I held up. But this is just like more of a, you know, translucent effect. Okay, so we talked about random stuff. Put all of these things in my bag of tricks. And what's really cool is that I bring this bag with me. And, like, let's say you're at a really, really bad location where there's, like, trash cans everywhere, or there's cars everywhere. You can pull out, you know, a mirror, play around with that. You can pull out a copper pipe. You can pull out all these things, a plastic bag. And it's going to really, like, step up your photos and make them a little bit more interesting than just, you know, here. So those are some really awesome tricks of the trade. Here, let me hop you over here. All right. One of my favorite things to do with a DSLR, one of the reasons why it's called a DSLR is because you can actually take off lenses and change them to what you want. And again, a lens for beginners out there. Different ways to see the world. Different kinds of lenses bring you a different kind of story. I'm trying to do this backwards. Okay. So this is like, you know, basic 50mm lens. I love it. Now, in my first broadcast, I talked about how the kit lens you should sell, and the money that you make from the kit lens, you should buy a 50mm 1.8 or a 35mm 1.8, which is what you're seeing right now. And well, I talked about in the first broadcast why it's important, why they're sharper, they're faster, they're going to create some beautiful buttery backgrounds. But without a prime lens, which is what these are called, they're prime. They do not zoom. They're fixed onto your camera, but they create really, really beautiful backgrounds. But one of the tricks you can do with this is on the side of the lens, this is a little button you're going to see. Is going to say, you know, manual, or let me hop you over bigger here. Let me try to zoom you in. There you go. So you're going to have a little switch. Every lens from a DSLR comes with a little switch, and it's going to say MA, which is like manual, manual automatic, or just M. Okay? So most cameras, the default is going to be on this, you know, automatic function. But if you're really, really feeling, you know, up to speed and a little bit more advanced, you can put it on manual. Back in the day, let me try to put it on me now. How do I do this? Andrew, can you help me? Yep. Because it's hard for me to, like, look at myself and then focus myself. Is that good?
Mm-hmm. You still on?
I'm still on. Is that good? Is that better?
Hey.
Okay, so anyway, so there's a little switch. Now, back in the day, before they had all of these technologies that they put into the camera, like automatic focus, automatic functioning, you had to control everything, including the focus, which is where I would die because I'm obviously blind as a bat. But you could switch it off. So this is how I'd made this effect. It's a very, very simple effect. So especially if you have a 50 millimeter or a 35 millimeter or anything like that, you are opening up the aperture, which is the opening of the lens, up very wide. So what I did was, this is a great trick, especially during Christmas time, where you see a lot of really cool lights, or at weddings where you have those nice market lights. So let's say you are wanting to take this effect. You're going to see a lot of beautiful lights around you, maybe a cityscape, maybe lights coming off of a hotel or a laundromat or wherever, wherever you see a lot of really beautiful lights. You're going to take it off of automatic and make it as unfocused as possible. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it actually is opening up the aperture and making it this beautiful, dreamy effect. It's really great for like an abstract look, or maybe a background of an inspirational quote or anything. So that's a really simple trick. You're basically taking an unfocused photo. Okay? Super easy. Anybody can do that. Alright, let me find you here. Now, like I said before, you want a lens. This would be kind of the lens that would do this effect. A fixed or a prime lens, so maybe 35 millimeter, which is what I'm shooting with on the camera that's doing the video right now. A Canon 50mm 1.8, that's like $125, super easy. Or the Sony mirrorless, if you have a mirrorless camera, this would be kind of what you are looking into if you want to buy a fixed or prime lens. This would be examples of a zoom lens. These are lenses that don't have a very big opening for the aperture. They're kind of closed like this, like we talked about in the first webinar. They don't open up very, very wide. They do zoom in, but they don't allow a lot of natural light. So this is probably not what you're going to be looking for that effect. But like I said, it's all about, story. It's all, what kind of story do you want? Here you go. So like I said before, click off automatic focus on the lens, adjust it to tilt it out of focus, and then boom, you'll get images like this. I took this at, it was like a Christmas tree. I was walking down the street and I saw a beautiful Christmas tree on the side of the road and the side of the street, and that's what I got. Alright, let's do a new topic. Silhouettes. Silhouettes are really cool. They're basically this moody effect that you can do to make your images you just kind of see the profile, the outline of a person. Maybe you see somebody walking along the beach at sunset, or you see, a beautiful couple kissing at sunset. So you're going to see a lot of these photos, and it's really, really easy to do this. And all you have to do is, let me pop you over here. So you're going to, it's all about aperture, again, which is the opening of the lens. When you control your camera fully and you learn how to control it like a really beautiful tool, you can do these amazing shots. If you do it on auto is not going to know how to do this. So getting off of auto and getting it on manual, or getting it on aperture mode, which is A, or S mode, which is shutter mode. So learning how to manipulate your camera in a more advanced way is what's going to make you get these images. Okay? So first of all, you're going to look, before you even take a photo, you're going to look for, do I have a background that is allowing a good silhouette to happen? For example, a white background, a sunset background. You don't want like a lot of really, really busy, street lights and cars going to and fro. You really want it to be a very simple kind of background. Not like this photo, because it, it's a little busy, it's a little distracting. Even though I did get the silhouette that I wanted, it's kind of distracting with all of the piping here and the room that he was running around in. Okay, How do you do it? You have to use the aperture mode, or if you're really advanced, you can use manual mode. Put it on the A function, or AV if you're a Canon person. You want your aperture to be very close. You don't want a lot of light entering the photo. So maybe like f6, 7, 8, you know, play around with that light. This would be an example of the camera on maybe like 1.8 or 2 or 3, allowing a lot of natural light to come in. And all I did was bump up the aperture to maybe f8, f9, f10, whatever. And I got this. That's it. That's the only difference. There was no editing. There was no Photoshop. There was no, it was literally like, ba-boom, ba-boom, got this shot. You know, of course, Photoshop and all those things are going to enhance the photo and make it, you know, a little bit more contrasty, make it a little bit more poppy. But having to know how to do it in camera is amazing and will save you so much time. Alright, moving on up. Alright, I actually learned this trick very, very recently, like maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And I was taking a webinar, because I take webinars too, on how to do some really cool in-camera tricks. And this photo I took of that same, so remember that Christmas tree that I told you about? Let's find it up here. So this same Christmas tree, right here. I took the out of focus photo, then I took that same Christmas tree, and I made that photo, okay? And all I did was, I didn't even have a tripod to do this, and I actually would recommend doing a tripod because then your lines won't be as jaggedy looking, but you know, it was just for the sake of trying new things that I did this. Okay, so it's all about the shutter speed. It's all about dragging that shutter speed as low as possible, and then boom, moving your camera as fast as possible while the shutter is open. Alright, and it just really takes a lot of practice. So, here's how it works. It's all on the wrist, like literally, it's all on the wrist. Put your camera on manual or the shutter priority so that you can just manipulate the shutter. And you want it to be very low, like I said, like 5 seconds. Kind of like what we're talking about with the sparklers. You want a really low shutter speed. To like maybe 1/15 or lower, even lower than that, depending on what kind of light. Oh, look. I hate it when I do that. I guess my spell check wasn't working. There you go. Just aperture to 10 or more. So because you're allowing a lot of light to come in, remember that we talked about the seesaw, the spinning plates, allowing a lot of light to come in, you need to compensate by putting your aperture up higher. You want a little bit closed aperture because if not, it's going to be too bright. You're allowing too much light to come into your camera. You need to think about, okay, the seesaw is going down this way. How am I going to even it out this way? We really want it to be balanced. So I want the aperture up. The ISO should be at 100 or 200 max because you're allowing a lot of light to come in. You can do the line, like I showed, the diagonal line, which was up here. You can do the diagonal line by just going like, okay, or you can make a circular pattern, which is basically using the same technique, same exact technique, just, well, you know, this camera's on a tripod, so it's really hard to do that with a tripod. But if you had a handheld camera like this, and you're like really, really low shutter speed, and you're ready to go, and you have the camera kind of like you're a human tripod at this point, and you go like that. And that swirly effect that you're going to get is how I made that photo. Okay, and it's really cool because I was watching this webinar how to do this, and it was in reference to a wedding reception. So people use this for really cool party photos with the lights, the DJ lights, and that's really cool. Alright, so if you have a more advanced camera, maybe like a Canon 7D or a Nikon 7100 or something like that. I don't know if the earlier models do it. I haven't really looked into it, but I know maybe more of the intermediate and advanced DSLRs do this. But you can make 2 pictures into one image, and that's called a double exposure. Now, early back in the day, when you had a film camera, what you would do is you would take a photo, then you would roll that roll of film back, and then take another picture on the same frame. Okay, back in the day. Now digitally, we kind of do the same thing, but without the film, and it's the same concept. So taking maybe a silhouette of a person's face with like a bush or a shrub. This was my husband at the park, and with a tree. So it's really just a matter of playing around with, you know, finding two contrasting textures, two contrasting things, maybe like the sky, you know, the sidewalk, the concrete, someone's face, a couple. It works really well for people, kind of really makes them look very edgy. And so let me show you how I did that. So if your camera actually does the double exposure, it's probably going to be in the menu option under, you know, shooting menu, or mine is under shooting menu. So look for your particular camera and your particular manual to see if it actually does double exposure. You can just YouTube it, like, does this do double exposures, or how to do this camera in double exposures. But if it does, all you have to do is set it to that function, and your camera will pretty much know how to put them together. All you have to do is worry about taking the photo. You find two things that are contrasting, like maybe a couple here, then you have like a bush, okay, and then you put them together. So it's really easy to do it. I mean, I just go to the park sometimes because I'm bored, because I have 3 kids and we're just at the park over and over again. And I literally just take my camera and I just practice all of these things. Like, people are looking at me weird, but I'm just like taking a picture of a tree, taking a picture of a bush, taking a picture of a tree, taking a picture of a bush. And, you know, it's just trial and error, like how to put, you know, things together. And so don't even worry about what people say, you know, just do your thing and learn something new. Alright, so this is a really cool effect. This is called a light trail. It really, really works well in an urban environment. You see this a lot in those long exposures like Eiffel Tower, DC, so you're going to see these beautiful long, the car lights going past. And all I did was, had my camera on a tripod. You absolutely need a tripod for this unless you want your images to have that squiggly effect. Put your camera on a tripod. Again, it's all about exposure. It's all about long exposure, getting a lot of the light to come in. Remember, the shutter is how fast your camera opens up its window to allow light in. Okay, to allow light in. Gosh, why is this? There you go. Alright, go to a busy street. Like, I literally put my camera on the sidewalk, like this. And then I had my low shutter speed, maybe like a 10-second shutter or a 15-second shutter speed. You want that f-stop or that aperture to be very, very, the number has to be very high, something like f10, f12, because you have so much light coming in that you need to make sure you close that hole. You need that low ISO. You don't want your camera to see too much in the dark, because then it's going to brighten it up too much, overexpose it. So wait, you know, for 30 seconds, 15 seconds, you know, you can play around with that. Obviously, the longer the shutter speed, the more light trails you're going to get, which is really cool. This was the hometown that I grew up in, and me and my husband just like went to the street to get ice cream, went to the downtown area to get ice cream, and I saw this this really cool bus that would always pass by and had really cool lights. And that's, you know, kind of where I was inspired to do that. But you can do it anywhere. Alright. This was, and so that same day, because I'm crazy and I dragged my husband to do all these photography trick things for me because I really wanted to teach on this, that same day, we went to this downtown area to get ice cream. And I basically just played around with my camera at night. And this one is called a light painting. And you're going to get... Let me get a little video light, or... Okay, so I have So you can pretty much use anything for your light source. This is just a basic lantern, flashlight that we use for emergency purposes. It can be a video light if you're more advanced. It can be the actual flashlight that comes with your phone. It can be, you know, any consistent light source. This was a video light that made a really interesting square, kind of a rectangle pattern. You can even use a battery operated fluorescent, long fluorescent light. That actually might be a really cool effect, actually. So there's different lights. It doesn't really matter what you use. There's just different stories that you can tell depending on the light. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your camera on a tripod. These are all cameras on a tripod kind of deal, because you want that shutter speed very low. Here we go. You need the shutter speed opens its window to allow light in. You need a tripod or another light, for example, a flashlight or any other kind of light source. Like I said, you want that low shutter speed. You want your aperture to be closed a little bit more because you're going to allow a lot more light in. You want that low ISO, like I keep talking about, and you literally, you press the button. You have 30 seconds or whatever you set your shutter speed to. You literally are running around with the light, just dancing. Like, I literally went crazy in the middle of the sidewalk, and people are looking at me like, she is crazy. But I literally just, like, you know, with the light, you know, twirling and doing all sorts of stuff. You can do this with sparklers as well. And then you just see what you get. I love how that turned out. It was very, kind of like ghostly. Love that. Alright. This is a very cool effect. And it basically, you take like a white umbrella, for example, like the one that I have here. You're going to hold that white umbrella in front of you, like this, like covering your face. Then you're going to have a light source. You can do this with a phone, a flashlight, or any kind of other light source. Let me turn this thing on. So you're going to have the light hitting the umbrella like this. So I had me and my husband were just standing in the middle of our cul-de-sac, and we were had the light behind our heads like this, and we had the umbrella here blocking us, and it, as you can see, it's like this really cool silhouette effect that you can make. So that's all that was. You can get white umbrellas, you know, anywhere. I think I got mine off Amazon, of course, because I love Amazon. Get a tripod, get a white umbrella, have some kind of light source, and then I actually didn't have a low shutter speed for this because I didn't really need to. It wasn't like I was trying to get a lot of light in. I have my settings saying at 3.5, ISO 800, shutter speed 1/160 or something, but it might be different for you. You just have to depend on your light. If you're not very comfortable using manual, try to do aperture mode, the A mode. That really helps. Experiment with what you get. You might get something different. So, there you go. Let's hop over here. And then with that in mind, this is kind of like a build up to this kind of effect. So it's the same umbrella. Honey, do you have my tea going? The same effect. We have the same umbrella, the same light. My husband was like holding it behind our heads like this. And then what I was doing is I had a spray bottle, like an empty Windex spray bottle. And I literally, as I was kissing him, I know this is like super multitasking here, but I was spraying the bottle of, water through the old Windex bottle. And my husband was holding the flashlight. And this is what we got. It looked like, like we were in the middle of the pouring rainstorm. But it was really just a spray bottle of water that we were just spraying as the camera was taking the photo of it passing through the light. That's all that was. And that's a really interesting rainy effect, romantic rainy effect. And again, this is funny. This is what we were experimenting. So I was holding the flashlight here, and my husband was hitting me in the face with, let me zoom you in here. hitting me in the face with the spray bottle to see what it would look like. Okay, and then I had him stand a little bit further this way, and then I photoshopped his arm out here, and I just was left with the really cool spray and spritz. So that's a really cool shot if you want something a little bit more moody, a little bit more, you know, even though I said, you know, no Photoshop required for these tricks, it was true. The actual image was not Photoshop. I did have to get a little bit of his hand out, but I could have just done that by cropping it. It wouldn't have been, you know, you don't need to have some kind of fancy program to do that. Okay, so behind the person, your LED light works great. Get a spray bottle and an umbrella. White works the best because you're not having a lot of distracting patterns. Black might be interesting, but I really like the white because it really shines through really well. All right, guess what? You just learned my top 10 favorite tricks that I do, photography tricks that I do. And I really hope that you all learned a lot this webinar. I know I have. I would love to teach more of them, so I would love to hear your opinions on, you know, different things you would like to hear covered, different topics that you would like to hear. I am open to any and all photography related questions, business related, website building, social media questions. So again, this is Crystal Marshall from marshallphotography.com, and it's been awesome hanging out with y'all. And check me out on Facebook, like me. Follow me on Instagram, and it's been really fun. So we will see you all soon. Stay tuned for more.